really is only about 6 weeks away. Mm-hmm.
1 minute.
Oh, really? Yeah.
To work. Is Malcolm on here?
He just joined.
Okay. Gingerich on?
No, he's not going to be here tonight.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
That's right. I knew that.
I was supposed to remind people, and I forgot. All right, get back there. There. So, can anybody see Kelsey?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm just doing stuff, so I'm not looking at the camera, so I had the camera off.
All right. Somebody tell me when it's 7 o'clock so we can get started.
It is now.
Conference will now be recorded.
Oh, is it now?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the, I better check the date, May 14th of 2020 Muscatine City Council meeting. As you know, we're doing this virtually until the time is safe for us to, again, be doing our council meetings in person, but this should still be going out on Channel 2. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming. Cinda, will you please do the roll call?
Yes. Councilmember Hopkins?
Present.
Councilmember Freilich?
Present.
Councilmember Malcolm?
Present.
Councilmember Gordon? Present. Councilmember Brockert? Present. Councilmember Gingerich? And Councilmember Brackett?
Present.
6 present, 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, we have just a couple things on the meeting tonight. Two, but did we add something at the last minute, Cinda?
Yeah, yesterday afternoon we did.
Was that wasn't the small business forgivable loan, was it?
No, it was the sidewalk. It's the sidewalk cafe dining.
That's right. Got it. So we have just a couple things on our agenda tonight. The first thing is an overview on city revenues. We all recognized a while back when we got into this coronavirus issue that the city, as every other municipality and governmental agency and business and personal family, is all being affected financially by the coronavirus and the things that it has brought to our community. Certainly we have expected and seen a loss in our hotel-motel tax, road use tax, all different kinds of things. And so council has asked the staff to prepare for us a document giving us an update on what the expectations are for how much loss of revenue we're going to experience. And then council's really interested in having some discussions on ways that we can look at curbing expenses to make them be as painless as we possibly can. So, Nancy, are you on?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Will you please go ahead and start?
Sure. And this was an interesting project because things change day by day, it seems like.
Yes, they are.
So this is based on assumptions, and some of those I passed by department heads, and some were just personal judgment. Some of it, I go back and forth. We know what it is now, but how quickly the recovery will be, that's one of the big unknowns. So on slide number 2 is kind of an overview of what I'll be going through. And as you mentioned, Mayor, the major revenue impacted are road use tax, local option tax, and hotel-motel tax. And then the second section will be the estimated impacts in the general fund on revenues. We've identified some expenditure reductions, and then the estimated impact on the general fund balance. And then one of the slides is also the additional federal funding we've received so far. And it really is adding up to a list, and there may be more coming. And then just comment on enterprise revenues and then a summary at the end. So slide number 3 is the road use tax fund. This is the fund statement we used during the budget. So it has 2 years of actuals, the current year budget. The next 2 columns are when we adopted the budget, what our projections would be for both the revised estimate and next year, and then the preliminary impact that we are estimating at this point. So for road use tax, the DOT did come out with a 25% reduction, so we were able to use that to project a 25% reduction for the last 4 months of this fiscal year. And then that totaled up $221,000. If we expect somewhat down next year, I used a 20% reduction, and that would still be a $602,000 reduction in road use tax funding. Road use taxes fund both the public works operating expenditures, the roadway maintenance, street cleaning, snow and ice, engineering, admin budgets, as well as the pavement management program. So we're proposing in the revised estimate, most of the pavement management for this fiscal year is already expended, but we would remove the $100,000 allocation for sidewalks out of the revised estimate. And that was going to be used for sidewalks in the Grandview Avenue area, and since that project's been delayed, this really won't have an impact. For next year, however, we're proposing to name the regular public works operating expenditures, the roadway maintenance, snow and ice, without trying to reduce this, and then the reduction in road use tax funding out of the annual pavement management program. And that's been resurfacing, concrete patching, alleys, and we're proposing to actually not take bids on a project this calendar year, and then see what the funding available is in 2021. But we feel this has the least impact on our residents. They will still get the regular ongoing services from Public Works. The major projects just wouldn't be happening because of the funding.
Nancy, this is Nadine.
Yes.
I have a question. Are we not going to do any sidewalks this calendar year?
We are proposing not to because of this funding.
Okay, thank you.
And then even next fiscal year, I've taken it out, just to make the numbers work. But we'll see how it looks, later on. But taking out the pavement management, the $412,000 and the $100,000 for FY 2021 sidewalks, that still would result in a positive fund balance at the end of the year of $114,000.
Okay, because there's a sidewalk in my ward that really needs to be built for safety reasons, if nothing else.
And it's anything we delay would have an impact. Again, at this time we're proposing to defer decisions on these.
Okay, thank you.
They would be out unless funding would be available.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go to slide 4. This is local option tax, so the same columns, but the preliminary impact, and there really isn't a statewide estimate of the impact, because every county has different sales tax places that they generate sales tax from. So I use basically the same assumption I did for road use tax. The revised estimate, 25% reduction for 4 months, and that was $255,000. And if there's a 20% reduction for next fiscal year, that would be a $587,000 reduction. This would impact the current local option that's available for the West Hill Sewer Project. And that would be a $204,000 reduction this year and a about a $470,000 reduction next year. However, we have been setting aside funds in a reserve every year, specifically for this project, and those funds can be used so the West Hill project can continue, and we can continue progress towards meeting that consent order deadline of 2028. So revenues will be impacted, but the West Hill Sewer project itself should be able to continue. It will impact the 20% of the local option that's allocated to pavement management, however, and so that transfer out to the sub-fund, which is probably better on slide number 5. We'd have $51,000 less going into the sub-fund in the revised estimate and $117,000 less in FY21. But again, this is based on my percentage assumptions, which I'm not all that confident in. So it would come down based on those assumptions that we'd have about $470,000 that could be used for pavement management. But again, I'm uncomfortable proposing that we do anything this year because the estimates could be.
I don't know. Turn it off. You said you have to put a Band-Aid over it. That place where it shows you.
Hey, Kevin, can you mute the,
Muted.
you don't need to unmute to talk, Nancy.
I just did. I figured that out. So we are proposing, and if the sales tax rebounds, it will likely be later on in the start of 2021 rather than starting in the summer of FY 2021. So between the road use tax fund and the local option tax fund, the revised estimate impact is projected at a $476,000 reduction. And then FY21, between road use tax and local option, it's about $1.2 million reduction. So these are very significant reductions or projected reductions in those funding sources. There is a possibility that more federal stimulus program money might be allocated that would, however, allow us to do some projects. And then going forward, the city could consider bonding for some of these if that was a priority of the city council. But even though the pavement management projects will be in limbo for a year, the city will still be doing Park Avenue and still the West Hill Sewer Project and the downtown streetscaping project. So there's still a lot of projects that will continue in this calendar year. Let's go to slide number 6. And this starts the general fund revenues. And I've got less history on these. I've got the adopted budget for each revenue type, revised, and the adopted budget. I have got the third column in as actual through April 30th of this year. And then the preliminary estimated impact on revenues for both revised estimate and FY21. And then the next to the final numbers columns are the impacts on the revised estimate and the 2021 budget. And then the comments section on this is what I want to review. And I'm targeting major impacts on revenues here. Footnote number 1 off to the side, property taxes. And I'm not showing that we'll have a change here. In actuality, the collections will likely be less than what we levied. However, at some point, those taxes will be collected. And so I would be hesitant to make expenditure reductions just because of the timing of the money coming in. The second half of this fiscal year, the taxes were actually due, the official due date is March 31st. The no interest penalty date was extended to May 27th. And so we expect to get more collections in yet this fiscal year, and we do accrue amounts we receive in July and August. And so that is considered current year revenues. With that change in date, and I did talk to the county treasurer, it won't allow her to do a tax sale this year. And that's where the most years the tax sale results in the city collecting 99.95% of all the city's taxes. Without that tax sale, it's going to be lower than that. But again, they will be collected at some point, so we didn't. We're not showing that it has an impact on our operations. Right now, for the first half of the year, and so far, we're at 93.3% of the tax levy has been collected, and we do expect more, especially when the no interest pay period ends later this month. Going down to the next comment number 2 is on hotel-motel tax. And the actual this fiscal year so far is $240,000, and that's only for the first 6 months. We won't receive the tax collections for January through March until later this month, probably towards the end of the month. That should be 2/3 of a good period. I think January and February will be relatively good months. I think it was March when things started really changing. So and then I think the fourth quarter will be very low as far as hotel-motel tax receipts. So for this year, I'm projecting that to be $175,000 less than what we had estimated. And then again, for next year, I'm hoping and made the assumption that it would get a little better in FY21, so that is shown at a 25% reduction for the overall fiscal year 2021. That, of course, could, depending on the length of the impact, that could be less. Footnote number 3, and this is the utility franchise fees, and this has nothing to do with the COVID. We did have a mild winter, though, and so our estimated collections from the Alliant, basically the gas utility, is estimated to be about $114,000 less than what we projected. And again, it was a mild winter, and it does depend on the gas usage and there's no collection issues there. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. And we do have the actual amount through April is $353,000, and that is for the first 9 months of the year. Let's go to slide number 7. Some of those are just comments. We don't expect a lot of changes in the road use tax transfer and licenses and permits and cemetery. But number 4 is it looks like we need to reduce our estimate for building permit, construction permit revenues. So in the revised estimate, based on where we are right now, 143,000, I've reduced it by 75,000. And then next year, just allowing for a 10% overall reduction. And that's really uncertain. I mean, there might be, it could be better than that. And some of that is depending on the size of the projects that are proceeding. So let's go to slide 8. And this starts the park department. And the park revenues will be significantly impacted by them not being able to host events and rent facilities. So I'll kind of go through those pretty quickly. The first area, shelters, Pearl City Station rentals, and Riverview Center. The estimates have been reduced by the amount shown. When I reviewed this with Rich, we thought there may be some additional coming in before June 30th, and that might be rentals for a later month, but we expect it to be minimal additional this year. And then even next fiscal year, there may be a continuing impact from people being cautious as far as group gatherings. So we reduce next year's as well. Jumping down to Kent Stein Park, and that's footnote 6. Generally this time of year, May would be a busy month at Kent Stein, both for the maintenance fees and concessions. Those have been reduced. 9,000 in maintenance fees in the revised estimate and 2,000 in concessions. And then next year, especially if there's a carry forward effect, this summer, next year is by 4,000 and 1,000. Soccer, the same type of thing. Again, this would be a busy time of the year for soccer events. Revised estimates down 17,000. Concessions down 2,100. Next year, again, we're expecting some kind of reduction. 5,000 and 1,100. Going down to footnote 8 for the recreation, and again, they haven't been able to offer their programs. Revised estimate, we're reducing by 16,000, and next year by 4,000. Again, I think people are going to be cautious going forward. Page 9, we get into the Aquatic Center. And this is one that was a real unknown when I was discussing this with Parks. You know, will it open? When will it open? And what kind of attendance will there be if it does open? So we, between Rich and I, we thought it would be probably a third of a normal June as far as revenues. So those reductions are there. And then next year, again, and this is, the revenues are part this calendar year, July and August, and part next year. So we use an overall 65% reduction for next year. And again, I heard people talking early before the meeting, you know, whether it will open or not. And it will actually, revenues don't cover all the expenditures, so if it doesn't open, it will have a little bit of a positive effect on overall the difference in revenues and expenditures. But that's a decision that I don't think has been made yet. So the total park and rec revenue reduction is about 91,000 in the revised estimate, and about 67,600 for next year. With those reductions, however, Rich and his staff went back and we'll hit expenditures next, but they were able to look at their expenditures and find reductions that would offset those revenues, both in the revised estimate and next year. So these, with that being done, it does not have an effect on fund balance in the general fund, and and that's a good thing. Most departments don't have that opportunity for having revenues that are revenue reductions that can be offset by expenditures. A lot of those reductions are in the seasonal wages. There's also some by deferring some capital items, but they did find money to offset the revenue reductions. Some smaller things, number 10, library, they're deferring fines, so I lowered that $2,000. Art Center hasn't been able to rent facilities, so I lowered that by $200. Go to slide number 10. This is police revenue, and it looks like the court fines are lagging behind what they normally are, and so we reduced that revenue estimate in the revised estimate by $10,000. And then next year, assuming everything's back, normal court operations, it wouldn't have an impact. The parking violations, and this is for like expired vehicle plates. The state did extend deadlines, allowed a grace period for people to get renewals. So we think that revenue is going to be down $6,000. Jumping down to fire, the only identified reduction we're seeing there is they delayed or deferred some of their fire inspections, so the fees this year are probably going to be about $3,000 less. So to slide 11. Interest income. This fiscal year, we're going to meet our projections because we have CDs that are paying pretty good rates right now. But as of March, interest rates have really plummeted, and the did take bids on funds this week, and the high bid was 0.4%, and right now we have CDs coming due at like 2.5%. So this would be a significant reduction in interest income for the next year. So the grand total revenue impact in the revised estimate, $476,000, and based on our assumptions, next year will be $237,700 reduction. So that total is about $714,000 in revenue reductions in the general fund. Go to slide 12. And this is, we're starting expenditures, general fund expenditures. And again, I've done, highlighted some things off to the left we'll go through. The regular legal services budget, based on expenditures to date and the estimates for the last 3 months, I put in there that we believe it's going to be under by $20,000. This doesn't include the legal services in the HR budget, but the regular city attorney fees appear like they're going to be under. Number 2, and actually number 3, in order to address the revenue reductions, we're proposing to defer filling the new positions that were added with the FY21 budget. One of those was the HR generalist, and that would be $73,700. And footnote 3, the 3 firefighter positions, $234,400. I'm showing the whole fiscal year there. If it looks like something can be changed mid-year, we can look at that. But I guess I'd rather do the full fiscal year and be cautious rather than doing it 6 months and then have to extend it. Footnote number 4, looks like library's revised estimate will come in under by $20,000, and I did review that with Pam Collins. And then number 5, those are the Park and Rec expenditure reductions that were identified by the Park Department, which do offset the revenue reductions we just went over with the general fund revenues. So slide 13. Community development, there will be a savings this year of $37,000 if we don't fill the Planner 1 position until July 1 or after, and that is that's what's proposed. Lindsay Whitson left earlier this calendar year. In number 7, there will be a reduction of the transfer to the CDB Enterprise Fund due to the reduction in the Hotel-Motel tax. It's actually, Hotel-Motel tax is based on 25% of the prior fiscal year's receipts, and so that transfer will be reduced next fiscal year by $43,700 based on our estimate. This, however, will not impact the CDB because we have that fund balance in the CDB funds, so they can pretty much do their normal operation, but their current allocation of local options will be reduced, and that will be a positive thing to the general fund. There's no impact on Public Works. Public Works operations, since we're proposing that the impact be all in the pavement management program. Number 9, and this is where there's been $69,000 of Federal CARES Act been allocated to Muscatine for our airport. And that should be able to reduce our airport subsidy by a total of $69,000, and so that those two numbers in the revised and next year total the $69,000. Number 10, and I don't have it in the total column, but we could consider reducing or deferring the allocation for merit increases for the full-time non-union employees. I think it's an important allocation, but it definitely can be considered for reduction or not allocating this year. Slide 14. I am adding the items in budget amendment number 2 there, which total the $62,700. So the revised estimate change between what we had on the 2 previous pages and the amendment number 2 is a reduction in expenditures in the revised estimate of $151,800. And next year it would be a reduction of $604,900, with a lot of that being the deferred positions. Slide 15. This is the budget fund statement. And on this one, I do show a couple years of history, the current year original budget, the original revised estimate, and original FY21 budget, and then the preliminary impact of those revenue and expenditure changes we just went through. And they're actually in bold on the slide. See that? So the revenue impact of the revised estimate would be a reduction of $476,296 and $237,700 for FY21. The impact for expenditures would be a reduction of $151,800, and next year a reduction of $453,100. So our ending balance in the revised estimate, based on all our assumptions would be $4,413,000. And that is about $325,000 less than what we projected we would, where we would be. And then I think I'll finish the revised estimate column. The fund balance would decrease by $386,000 during the year. But in the minimum general fund balance for the policy, the 16.7% would be $3,524,000. We would still be $889,000 higher than the minimum, which is very good. And the calculation of the updated estimated expenditures, or the fund balance, updated fund balance compared to updated expenditures, we would still have a 20.6% ending fund balance, which is very good considering the revenue impacts we've had. Next year, and again, based on the assumptions, we would actually be, the ending balance be $4.7 million, which is about what we had anticipated it would be, which would be an increase of $220,000 of the amount we don't get this fiscal year. It would be $1,163,000 higher than the minimum, and the percentage would be about 21.7%. So, and that isn't that far under what the original budget was. So the numbers work. A lot of the unknowns are just what the duration of the impact will be on our revenues going forward. So that ends the general fund section. You want to go to slide 16. There has been a number of additional allocations in several departments from the federal CARES or other funding. The police have a supplemental JAG grant of $60,827. It should be noted some of the funds listed here are for specific purposes, and others are more general. So we'll have to sort through that. But it is nice to have this the federal subsidies coming in. Transit, $575,000. The city sponsored a CDBG grant that was passed through to local nonprofits for $53,000. The Airport CARES Act funding for operations, $69,000 that we mentioned before. The other thing that with the airport funding, they have waived the local match for our taxiway project. So we had budgeted or listed that as about $325,000 out of the 2022 bond issue, and they will be funding 100% of that project. So that's a good thing going forward. About $43,000 in additional admin funding for the housing voucher program, $44,000 for the public housing operating subsidy, and in the ambulance fund, there was we've received about that $41,927 so far to help with the additional costs related to the COVID, and I think additional revenue is expected from that source. So this is quite a number of different things that have already happened, and there is the potential of additional assistance coming as well. Slide 17, and this is just a general comments on revenues of the enterprise funds. The regular water pollution control and collection and drainage revenue, we expect minimal, if any, impact. Transfer station and landfill, we're estimating about a 2,000-ton decrease in tonnage this year. And then next year's tonnage may also be impacted, but we're not ready to project what that would be at this time. Refuse collection, minimal. Golf course, that's been open, so minimal impact. Boat Harbor Marina, minimal directly related to COVID. A lot of this is depending on the river levels and the weather. Transit, there will be decreases in fares and ridership, but that federal grant allocation should cover any revenue impacts. Parking will be significantly impacted. The decreased meter fees and fines, and then the impact on leased parking is yet to be determined. We had been at almost capacity in the lease lots, and all the leases come due July 1. So that impact we will know in the next few months. Ambulance, increased supply is expected to be covered by the federal grant. CDB, the reduced hotel-motel tax would include the current year allocation, but they do have that fund balance to use. And then the airport, as we mentioned before, the federal funding for operations and no local match for the taxiway project. So the enterprise funds, except for parking, we don't feel there would be a significant impact. On 18, just a summary, these are our projected impacts based on currently known information and projections. The most significant unknown is the time it will take to recover from the impacts. The city was in good financial condition going into this event, especially in the general fund, due to the fund balance policy and our balanced budgets in recent years. And then the last thing is the most significant things that are being proposed is deferring the 2020 payment management program and deferring hiring of the new positions. Those help to offset a lot of the impact. Having the Parks Department be able to find expenditure reductions to offset their revenue reductions was a very positive thing. But all those things can be revisited during the upcoming year as more information becomes known. But the recommendation for there is, I think that keeps the financial integrity of the city. While the revised estimate fund balance would dip, that's part of the reason for that fund balance policy. There's a specific provision in there for revenue fluctuations, and although the policy didn't say pandemic, it says things like ATEs and state reimbursements. This is a similar item of a similar nature that we have that fund balance that we can dip into to keep providing the services that the residents expect. One of the other things I don't have on here yet is that this doesn't include us using the $80,000 set aside in the emergency tax levy yet. We also could use that, but that's a one-time funding. But it could be used now, or if next fiscal year continues bad, that would still be there to help address funding next fiscal year. So I guess
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you.
Sure.
Council, any comments, questions?
I had a comment.
Go ahead.
I really wanted to thank Nancy and her staff for putting that together. It definitely provides me the information that I was looking for and what's going on with the city's finances. I know it's unfortunate with what has happened that we're going to have to cut some projects and postpone hiring, but I think this definitely provides me a lot more comfort in knowing that, we are still secure, that we still have the ability to provide a lot of the things that we need to do on a daily basis. We just unfortunately aren't going to be able to provide everything, but I had a lot more concern going into this than I have at this point in time. So, Nancy, thank you very much.
Sure.
One question of concern that I had that jumped out at me was it's worrisome to me. To cut back on the firefighters, our EMTs in the middle of a public health emergency. It seems counterintuitive that would be the place that we would cut. Although I can see that that's an area, with a large sum of money. Certainly, they presented to us that they need help. And they are at a position where we can't afford to lose them. I mean, we need them, especially, we need them every day, but certainly during a public health emergency. And for that to be where we choose to cut the biggest expense, that's worrisome to me. Council, anyone else?
I want to say the same thing that Kelsey said. This is Peg Gordon. Thank you, Nancy. This is awesome. I would sort of expect to maybe get the same request in 3 to 4 months so we can keep our eye on it and make sure that if we have an opportunity to bring back some things like hiring a firefighter, or if we need to take out other measures, we can do so. So this is perfect, and your analysis as normal is great. I appreciate that. But be prepared that maybe late summer, September, we might need to go through this exercise again so we can see where we're at, what we can add back, or if we have to remove other things. So, thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that will be revisited several times in the upcoming months.
Yep.
And I sure hope, as we all do, that we're being ultra conservative. Although I fear it could be the other way. Certainly hope that it's not. So, are we? Then is part of the proposal then a hiring freeze?
There is not really a hiring freeze in this proposal. The positions that are proposed to not be filled were the new ones added in the F-21 budget. I think, and Greg might be able to comment more on this, I would think we would review positions that came open, at what point they'll be filled, but I don't think we've actually declared a hiring freeze at this point.
Okay.
That is something we could look at if things continue.
Sure.
Negative.
I just know in most every budget that I put together, employees are always the greatest expense. Anyone else?
Yes, Your Honor. This Councilwoman Brockert. Nancy, I appreciate all the work that you and your staff have done to put this document together. As usual, it's very thorough and very understandable. Have we ever gone through each department and looked at all the temp folks we hire or the contractors to see if there's anything that we could cut back there and maybe reassign to a regular employee so we don't have all that extra expense?
Every year the budgets, the operating budgets are scrutinized pretty thoroughly. Just this year we did increase the rates for the seasonal employees. Some of the other things, I think what you're getting at is the project managers. A lot of those positions are charged directly to capital projects. And some of those are, we pay them significantly less per hour than if we contracted with a professional engineering firm to do that same inspection service during construction. And especially if there's federal grants involved, and Brian can add more to this, but they have to test concrete as it's being poured, and there's a lot of documentation you need for federal grants. And that's what the services those people provide And it really does take a lot of on-site inspections during that, and then record keeping after that.
Right. Would we maybe be better off to hire ourselves another engineer who would have these skills, so we wouldn't necessarily have to call in a separate professional firm?
That has been always been discussed before, and I don't know if, Brian, if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, this is Brian Simon, Public Works Director. Hopefully you can hear me okay. That's something, Nadine, that we have considered. It is something that we're going to be forced to consider probably in the next 1 to 2 years, because the staff that we do have is temporary, are retirement age and will be leaving us. So that's the position I would like us to be in at some point. We talked about this a little bit at the budget meetings earlier this year. So yes, that would be a goal. At this time, though, we're very satisfied with the staff that we have and the work that they're doing. So I don't see a short-term solution, but definitely a long-term where I would like to get to that staff in-house to do those inspections and things like that for us.
Okay, would it be a possibility to move a current contractor into a permanent position? For instance, once Jim retires, would one of those folks be interested and want to do the job?
We could certainly look into that. I think we're saving money now without having to pay benefits and things. We're just paying the hourly rate. But that's something we could definitely investigate.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Councilman Freilich, Councilman Malcolm, Councilman Brackett already talked. Good?
So far,
All right.
good. I'm good, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. We're going to go ahead and move on, but certainly want to echo the council's thoughts. Thank you, Nancy, and your team for putting that all together for us. And I echo what Councilwoman Gordon said. Things are changing on a daily basis, and so keep that program ready to go. We will move on. The second thing we were going to talk about, Peggy, are you going to bring that forward, the Small Business Forgivable Loan Program?
Yes, I will, Mayor Broderson. We want to return with our results for the initial phase of the Emergency Assistance Program. So Jody will present that. I think she did attach a document to our agenda tonight. And before I do that, I want to thank Greg Jenkins and Jody Earl Goodwin for all their work the last few weeks. If you think about it, in the last 4 weeks since we, as a council, accepted the proposal to move forward with this, we've been able to implement and prepare small business forgivable loans for businesses here in town. And we would like to, after you hear this, speak about maybe recommending a second phase. So once you hear the numbers and everything. But great team, and the Community Foundation, we couldn't have done it without Jamie. She was sending us daily updates as to the applicants and everything like that, so their program helped a lot. So I'm sure Greg and Jody will be chiming in here too. So Jody, do you want to give us our recap here?
Sure. This is Jody Royal Goodwin, Community Development Director, and so as Peggy said, it's been a really quick process from go ahead, go do this, to we actually are ready to make the awards and issue the payments. We opened the grant application process to small businesses that were impacted on May 1st, and they had ultimately until May 10th to apply to finish their applications. We received 89 applications, and the loan committee, including the banks, reviewed all of those applications and are recommending 70, or have approved 75 for loans, which are here for recommended payment. Those businesses range from obviously the restaurants and salons to some more technical, like precision metal and that kind of business. So we have a range of businesses that were impacted, and we're helping in all the 75 businesses, the majority of them request the full $2,500 available, but not all of them. And so the total amount for the 75 loans will be $183,267 of the $400,000 that was approved in the internal advance last week. I actually spent today getting all of the loan documents ready so that if we're good to make payment, tomorrow every business will be sent their loan documents and given the directions on how to respond to that and then access their funding. And I'll answer any questions if you have them.
Jody, this is Peg. Can you just
Go ahead.
Can you just briefly explain the approval process real quick when they get their
Okay.
loan?
So from here on out, the disbursement of funds. Peggy?
Yes, please.
Okay. So once I'm going to email the documents to each applicant that was approved, and then those documents require that the applicant review them and respond acknowledging and accepting the terms of the loan and the funding. Once I receive that back from each individual applicant, the check will be released. And actually, Finances has the list and has started inputting each approved applicant into the Springbrook software for checks to be run. So we expect that really funds will be in their hands next week as long as they respond to that email.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions, council? Otherwise, are you looking for a motion, Peggy? Or do you want to make one? Or do you
yes.
need one?
I think we probably first need a motion to, and I'm sure yourself or Kelsey will correct me on here, I'd like to make a motion to accept the applicants and the amount of $183,000 to be paid out in our first initial emergency assistance small business loan program.
I would second that motion.
Councilwoman Malcolm, do you agree?
I agree, Your Honor. I agree to that.
Councilwoman Brockert? I agree. Councilman Freilich?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins?
Agreed.
Councilman Brackett?
Agreed.
And Councilwoman Gordon?
Agreed.
I'm calling this a resolution to accept the first round of applicants and payments to be awarded to the Small Business Forgivable Loan. Thank you all for your hard work on that.
Mayor, this is Linda.
Yes.
Can I request that somebody put together some kind of resolution memo to be signed so we have something for public docs?
Jody, can you do that?
I can figure out what that is.
All right. Thank you.
You could replay the video and base it off of Councilwoman Gordon's statement.
Sure.
I'm sure our friend Cindy will be more than happy to help.
Thank you so much. Okay, the third thing, and I don't know who's presenting this, Cinda, the sidewalk cafe dining idea.
I believe it's Andrew.
You believe it's his, Cinda?
Andrew?
Andrew.
If I might intercept that, this is Greg Jenkins. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Can't hardly hear you, Greg.
Okay, sorry. Better? Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we put on the agenda ask for some discussion and action so that we could get the sidewalk cafes started quickly. Unfortunately, the review that I did this with the city attorney today on the ordinance that we have in place do not make that possible for that to happen this evening. We'd like to bring back a quick public meeting next week, and they have that motion to put in place a moratorium on the requirements for making that permitting, and then enable the city administrator or some other staffer to pass that we can talk more about it and be better educated about it last week because this has just come up in the last day. But we are not in a position at this moment to put that moratorium in place that enables us to do that. I hope that's somewhat clear. Andrew maybe could help sort that out for us.
Sure, Mayor, Council, this is Andrew Payman, Assistant Community Development Director. The issue is by ordinance that we put in place. In order, it's very prescriptive. In order for us to do this, we need to needs to be done by resolution after notices to all the adjoining businesses are sent out. So we'll be looking for something to make that a quicker process and get that in place by next Thursday.
Andrew, is this for restaurants to be able to serve outside in response to the coronavirus?
Not specifically outside, because obviously there's nothing to restrict them to do that from their own property. This is specifically to outside and on city property. The two restaurants in town that have annually taken advantage of this is Mooney and Avenue Subs. I think the other thing that I will be coming back and would like to expand the program. Right now, when we put this in place, I believe it was either 2014 or 2015. It was specifically targeted at the downtown area, so technically right now it's only offered between Mississippi Drive, 5th Street, Mulberry, and Pine. I think obviously citywide would like to see it, so, for the duration of this, at the very least.
Can I ask when this comes back to us that someone touch base with public health? I would like some kind of confirmation from them that this will comply with the social distancing, with people walking up and down the sidewalks, if people are sitting there eating. I want to make sure that it's going to fit within the parameters of social distancing. So if somebody could touch base with Christy at Public Health just to make sure that this doesn't violate any of that for them.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean
that can have that extra information.
Right, and that was yeah, absolutely. That we will do that. This is kind of a fast-moving thing that the restaurants reopen, so we'll respond the best we can and as quick as we can.
Sounds good. So we will hear more about this next week.
Yeah, but the intent is to bring back to you an action by which we can kind of create an expedited process for as long as the health emergency is going on.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, Council? Okay. Thank you. We are going to move on to communications from Council. Councilman Malcolm, did you have anything tonight?
Excuse me, I was muted. No, nothing tonight, but thanks Jody and everybody, Peggy, who helped work all this out and make it better. They made council look better, like we're actually doing what we're supposed to be doing, helping. And I hope city staff are helping us do the things that we need to do for the community and citizens. It's always great reward when you walk by somebody at a store and they turn to you and says, "You guys are trying to do a good job." And they go, "Okay." With the help of city council and the city personnel. So I want to thank everybody for helping and make this work. We're turning into a great team.
Thank you. Councilwoman Brockert.
I'd like to echo Councilman Malcolm's remarks. Thank you to Nancy and her team for putting together a very comprehensive document, and to Peggy, Jody, and Greg for all the work they have done with the loan program. I'm sure that a lot of our smaller businesses are breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief because they know we've got their back. Obviously, there will be no Riverbend neighbors on Monday night, but I hope we can start getting together again in June.
Thank you. Councilman Frank.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank everybody. It's kind of a common theme here, but everybody's been working hard. The council's worked hard. The staff has worked hard. It's good to see that we're now able to start opening the businesses. I think people have got a pent-up readiness to get out and do something business-wise. They've been home long enough. So I still maintain the distancing and go about life and do the best we can.
Thank you. Councilman Hopkins.
I would just say I agree with the other council members. One no. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilwoman Gordon.
Nothing more tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Brackett.
I would, I'd already thank Nancy for her work and her team's work on the financial report, so thank you on that. I, of course, commend everyone that worked on the Small Business Assistance Fund. That is, I think, a great thing that we have done for the community, and hopefully it'll help some of our businesses pull through a little stronger in this. And, I think I'm the only one, though, that I'm gonna drag up something else real quick here and just see if, has anyone had a chance to go down to 2nd Street in the section that is currently being worked on between Cedar and Walnut? I know that there's been some improvements made to what it was like, compared to yesterday. I still have some concerns, some safety issue concerns about it, given that the lighting down there I believe has been removed. It'll be very dark once it's dark out. So, once the sun goes down. And there are some fairly sharp objects protruding from the concrete, as well as various holes and things like that. And I just curious what other people's thoughts are on that. Where's the who's liable if somebody gets injured while walking on that? And is there anything further that we might be able to do to make it a safer environment? I realize there's construction. I get that, and there has been great improvement made, I feel, over the past, day compared to what it was. But I don't know that it quite fits the bill yet, and wondered if anyone else had any comments on that.
Kelsey, thank you for taking the time to take the pictures and to do the story. That was very helpful. When you shared that information, thank you for doing that. But the lighting, now that you mentioned that, I would see as a concern.
And I do have some additional, I went down there today. I sent some additional pictures that were from yesterday, earlier, but I did go down there today. I did not have time to take photos. But like I said, the concerns I have are, and if you go through the photos that I sent, you'll see at least one where there's probably a signpost, maybe one of the parking, signs. I'm not sure what it was, but it's cut off about 6 to 8 inches above the concrete and very sharp. And there's at least a few instances of things like that. So I don't know if maybe, at least with those items, maybe we could just stick a traffic cone over the top of it. That might be sufficient. But I would encourage, I'm trying not to harp on it, or trying very hard not to harp on it. And so I would like other people's input on that. So if you get a chance, and I'm speaking to the council members, if you get a chance, please stop down there and take a look and see if you feel like what we have done so far is adequate, and if we need to provide any further direction to staff. I mean, obviously, they're doing everything they can within their, within what they feel is their realm, and, we may need to provide them further direction. So, I appreciate the changes and the work that the staff has put into it. Thank you, Brian. I'm speaking, to you and your staff. I appreciate what you've done, but I would like input from the other council members on whether we need to do more. And, and that direction needs to come from us. I think that Public Works has done what they've been asked to do, but I don't know if we quite met the need yet. So, thank you.
Kelsey, I did have a chance to drive down there a couple days ago and today as well, and I share the concerns, certainly with the lighting, certainly with the uneven walk. If there was anybody that was not as sure on their feet, maybe you could make it through there, Kelsey. I don't know that I could. I would be concerned too. And, I think that council, and I think we did a really good job of assuring our downtown businesses that we were going to do everything possible to keep them from being harmed by this. And we were going to promise that they would have access. And I think they're feeling that we didn't keep our word on that, and I don't think that that's anywhere we want to go. I think we want to make sure that we're following through with what we say, because that trust is so vital. Has anyone else had any chance to check anything out down there?
Yes, Your Honor. I walked down there yesterday and took pictures as well, and I spoke with the people of Salvador's, and I also fired an email to all of us about it. I did not have an opportunity to look down there today. I did see the emails going back and forth saying where Brian and his people were talking about they were working on. So I assumed that the process was on this way. Tomorrow I will take the time to go see how far along we are, and as Kelsey is saying, look at what else could possibly be done, because, as of tomorrow, restaurants are open or can open, and at 50% capacity. So, if this guy would like to open his restaurant, I think he should, since he pointed out he's lost quite a bit of money over the past 60 days. That's my thought for so far.
Yep.
I've been down there.
Thank you. Councilman Fraley?
Yeah, I've been down there every single day.
Councilman Fraley?
Yes. I've been down there every single day for probably 3 weeks in a row, except today. And today was the one day I wasn't able to make it down there. And I have been watching it carefully, and I know that Brian is doing an awful good job. And so I talked to Jim. Jim was very helpful. And I think that perhaps I'll check it out tomorrow also, and we can get together and see if we need to do anything else.
Sounds good. Any other input?
Your Honor,
Kelsey, I'm sorry, was that everything?
No, Brian's
please.
Brian's been trying to give us some feedback on this for a few minutes here. So I think let's go ahead and if we could give Brian a chance to provide some input.
I did not see him trying to get in there. Go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry, I did not see that.
No problem. I make sure everybody can hear me. So I wanted to give a little bit of a response and some updates and some information. So because it's an open construction site, it is now belongs to the contractor. So if there are any slips, trips, falls, accidents, those are taken up with the contractor in the construction site. So the city is not liable for those any longer. It's part of the construction site. So just so we're clear on that. As far as any other requests, we appreciate those. We appreciate the input. We will definitely communicate those to the contractor. Everything that I've heard so far makes sense and are reasonable requests. So I want you to know that we're working on that. Please note that the temporary sidewalks will not be ADA compliant sidewalks. We're not able to do that, and to make them with the proper cross slope and all those types of things. So Mayor, as you alluded to, most, able-bodied folks shouldn't have a problem, but some that are less steady on their feet may need help. And I just can't make it like a perfect sidewalk. We can't do that during construction. We can get it as close as we can, but I just want the public to be aware that there may be some undulations or some uneven footing there that is really out of anyone's control. We'll do our best, but I just want you to be aware that it's not going to be perfect, and I hope they don't expect that. I think that's it. We are trying to work with everybody as well as we can. We had talked about putting up safety fence between the curb and the sidewalk to keep folks out of the street, but that's going to be torn down tomorrow. If they put it up today, it was going to be taken out tomorrow, weather permitting, because they're going to go down there and start working on the curb again tomorrow. So that's one of the reasons that they held off on that. I also want the folks to know that the city does not control the street lights. So we communicate with the MPW, try to get some temporary lighting down there, but that's something that's out of our control, directly. But I think we should be able to work with MPW to get something figured out for lighting down there as well. I think that's it.
Thank you, Brian. And I'm going to interject while you're on here, Brian. Kelsey, if you don't mind, I'll get back to you in a second. But while Brian is there and on the phone, of course, it's not like you're on the podium, but I have had a zillion calls in the last week about 8th Street and being torn up from Cedar to Iowa and 8th to Broadway, and then the detour going on 7th, and not enough signage, and the people are speeding through there like speed demons. And I'm also being told that the contractors are telling, so folks have been asking, why are you tearing up part of the new road that we already did? And they're saying that it didn't, all the work or some of the work that was done wasn't up to specs, and so they're tearing up what was already done and starting over in those areas. I guess I don't remember hearing that before, and I'm really at a loss with how to help these folks that keep contacting me about these detours and what's going on over there.
Okay, so I would suggest anytime you get contacted by folks, just direct them to Public Works, and we'll be happy to meet with them on the phone or in person or whatever they would like to help answer their questions. There are a couple things going on with the detour. I did send out a response today. Hopefully you had a chance to see that. Unless you want me to get into it, I don't have it with me what I wrote, but I could try to explain a little bit better. There were issues with the finished product on the pipe on 8th Street between Cedar and Iowa. So the contractor is going to have to, some of the pipe cracked. Either at some point after it was brought to the site, it cracked and it failed our televising inspection. So we rejected that work. They will come back in, they will remove it, they will replace it, we will reinspect it, which is one of the reasons we have those staff on staff. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate. It's at the contractor's risk, and it's one of those things that happens occasionally. So that is the reason why there are barricades between Cedar and Iowa. There's also some punch list items that need to be taken care of as far as backfilling and seating behind the back of curb. What I was told today at our construction meeting is that the contractor will come in on Monday and do the finished grading and seating between Cedar and Iowa, and then we'll open that section of pavement up on 8th Street from Cedar to Iowa. They will focus on installing the new pipe from Iowa to Broadway, and then they're going to come back later on in the fall and do all their pipe replacement. In case they have more they have to do, in case something else fails upon inspection, they can do it all in one fell swoop instead of tearing up and coming back and tearing up and coming back. So that's the gist of that. Was there something else? I'm still trying to remember what all you asked me.
So, the detours, a couple of the questions on the detours are that they certainly, nobody wants it on their street, of course. And they're wondering why one of the sides of the street is blocked off, but no work is being done. So why can't we open that up?
Okay, so I'm assuming that was about 8th Street, and that's why there's a little miscommunication between us and the contractor of when they're going to actually start that work on 8th Street. And we have set out today at our meeting. It is going to start on Monday. So the type 3 barricades that are there, folks, if you live there, you can go around them and get to your home. We decided to leave them up instead of pulling them down for one day and putting them back up the next day. So Monday will be construction on 8th Street. As far as the detour route on 7th Street, as I mentioned in the response I sent out, I realize that speed is an issue. We can't control how people drive. We try to get around town. That's going to be something that we'll try to enforce. We're going to put up some more watch your speed signs on 7th Street. Folks that live around town know how to get around. The reason that 7th Street's the detours for folks that don't know how to get around town aren't from here. So it's only a simple one-block detour. You skip a block and then you go up, instead of having to try to find your way to 5th Street and then get out. Also at 5th Street, up at Cherry is a real tight corner that we would have trouble getting folks around. That's the reason that we stay with 7th Street for the detour. One of the reasons we stay with 7th Street for the detour.
Can we maybe get the little car over there for a while?
I can definitely check with Chief Talkington and see if that's available. I'm sure we can do that. He likes to help me out with that stuff, so I'll make sure
Sure.
Actually,
and I don't even know if putting up some very. What? Go ahead, Chief.
Sorry, this is Brett talking, Police Chief. I'm actually I can actually talk tonight. Well, no, I'm on the computer, so I'm stepping up my game. We have no problem putting that car up there if we can find the location. We can also set up some patrol up there as well. So I will put something out tomorrow.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Brian, the last thing that I wanted to, the last thing on my notes here, and I have been directing everybody to call you, trust me. But the last question was, I kept referring people to the hang tag that they had on their door and said, you know, there's a number on that hang tag of what's going to happen and who to call if you have questions. But apparently the hang tag didn't come until a couple days after everything got blocked out. Was there a problem with those?
I can't explain that. That should have been done. I'll have to check and see what happened with that. I don't know. My understanding was just when the door hand went out like a week beforehand, so we're supposed to.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it,
Sure.
Brian. I know this is.
You're welcome.
This is. It's you know, anytime this stuff happens is always tough for everyone. And Kelsey, I'm sorry I didn't ask yet if you were done or if you had other things on your list.
I had one more thing. Well, one more thing.
Okay,
I had one more thing for Brian anyway. There was one of the business owners down there on Second had requested that they like the signs that we've got, but they wondered if we could move them back at least to the alley, the ones that say sidewalk access is available to Riverside Cafe and Salvatore's, just so that they're more visible for people that are coming down the street. Because, and I noticed that as well when I went down there, that it's a little hard to tell until you get close to the sign. And so if it's back a little further, that I think would help people understand that the sidewalk is open. Because once they get close enough to see the sign at this point, they both see the sidewalk is open. So if we could pull those back at least to the alley, I think that would be good.
Can I ask you to send me an email on that just so I can forward it and not forget it, please?
Absolutely. I'll do that as soon as we're done with the meeting.
All right, thank you. So take care of that then tomorrow.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Brian. And thanks again for all the stuff you're doing to make that right down there. I greatly appreciate it. And one of my, I was hoping to get the information across with that email and try and be helpful. So thank you. Then the only other thing that I had was just, we've got lifted restrictions starting tomorrow throughout our county, and I would like to encourage everyone to please continue to be safe, continue to social distance, as much as possible. And if you're going out in public where you're going to be, especially if you're going to be indoors where there are going to be other people, please wear a mask and, help slow and stop the spread of the virus so that we can get back to life as normal as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg, Cindy, do either of you have anything?
Well, I want to be sure and thank Bob Howard at CBI and Mike Keller at Community Bank for their help with the project that we just went through. They reviewed the financials for us with some great help, and also the Chamber of Commerce for their help marketing the program to their membership. So it was a team effort to get that done, and we're surely glad that this phase is done, and we look forward to moving on with the next one here shortly. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, and I believe the Community Foundation as well.
Yes, they were mentioned before, but you're right. Yep, absolutely. They were great to work with.
Thank you. Cinda?
Nothing here.
All right. I just wanted to reiterate thanks to everyone that was already mentioned, and certainly continue with following the recommendations. None of us can wait to get this all put behind us. In the meantime, I just wanted to ask everyone to please remember that some families have been hit financially much more severely than others have, to the point where they're struggling with food for their families. Our food pantry shelves are bare. They can't keep food. We have a collaboration put together between the Salvation Army, MCSA, Jesus Mission, and the United Way. And so they're doing food drives. Pantera's helping, Hy-Vee, Fairway, Farm and Fleet. And these food drives, all of the food goes to the Salvation Army. MCSA goes down there, and they work to divide everything between the pantries, because there's some days at MCSA, some days at Salvation Army. They're actually looking at starting an evening pickup at MCSA. But right now, their shelves are bare. And so they are doing a food drive. The truck was supposed to move from Hy-Vee to Farm and Fleet today, but my understanding is going to stay at Hy-Vee until Saturday. You can help for one thing, if you need food for your family, please reach out to any of those organizations I mentioned. But if you can help by donating to other families, you can give a financial donation. You can drop by dry goods, rice, beans, pasta sauces, canned meats, meals in a box type thing. Or if you're shopping, you can purchase bags of groceries that they will do for you and take out to the truck. So just a way for us to help make sure that our friends and neighbors have that most basic needs met here in our city. It's an awful thought for any of us to go to bed tonight and think about that people going to bed hungry in Muscatine. It's inexcusable. So if we can help in any way, please do. Thank you, everyone, tonight. Next week, we will have a regular meeting, still on virtual. We're looking at how things are going to open up for the city. The decision has been made to keep City Hall closed until June 1, and we will take it from there, at least June 1. You'll see that several different things are opening, and please support the businesses by following their recommendations. If you are a person that doesn't want to agree with wearing a mask, then don't go to the store that requires a mask. But please, let's be kind. Whether we agree with each other or not, we can still be kind. And let's not take anything out on the frontline workers. They're out there doing the best they can to bring home a paycheck, and the least they need is for anybody to treat them poorly. So thank you, everyone. Stay safe, and we will see you next week. Good night.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. The last thing somebody just mentioned is there's a free meal for anyone Sunday at First Presbyterian Church, Iowa, and Fourth. I believe they always do that. Yes, that's always good to remember. Yes. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Who made the motion to adjourn?
I did. Nadine. Thanks. Okay.